All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're jumping into one of the wildest, most ambitious ideas in all of human history. This belief that maybe, just maybe, we're built for something way bigger than our everyday lives.
So let's start with a feeling. Have you ever felt it? Our source material calls it ontological imposter syndrome. That's a fancy way of saying it. It's that nagging feeling deep down, that suspicion that you're meant for more, that the life you're living is somehow a poor fit.
Well, this feeling, this powerful urge to close the gap between who we are right now and some kind of divine potential, it actually has a name. It's called theosis, or sometimes divinization. And it's a pretty radical idea that we aren't just creatures, we're gods in the making.
So, where in the world did an idea of this huge even come from? I mean, this isn't some new age fad. Nope. This is an ancient concept with roots that go way, way down into some pretty deep theological soil.
And get this single powerful statement from the 4th century, wow, it really set the stage. Saint Athanasius basically framed the ultimate spiritual goal in one sentence, a total and complete transformation of what it even means to be human.
Okay, so let's get into it. The big question, right? How is something like this even possible without, replacing God? Well, Western Christian traditions actually came up with a couple of very different blueprints to tackle that exact problem.
So check out how Eastern Orthodoxy solves this. It's actually a pretty brilliant distinction. They say God's essence, that's like the core of the sun, it's untouchable, unknowable, a million-degree furnace. But God's energies, things like love and life and grace, those are like the sun's light and warmth. See? We can't become the core itself, but we can absolutely be filled with that light and warmth. Here's another way to think about it. It's like the difference between being a billionaire and having a billionaire's unlimited credit card. You don't become the source of the money. That's God's essence. But you get to fully participate in all that purchasing power. You become, as they say, a god by grace, not a god by nature.
All right, let's switch gears for a second and look at a totally different blueprint. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They have a view called exaltation. And this isn't just about participating in something. No, this is much more like a full-on promotion.
The whole idea here is that humans can literally progress to become gods themselves, kind of following the same path that God the Father once took. So the focus really shifts, right? It's less about a state of being and more about a state of status, like becoming a creator in your own right. Okay, so now let's travel over to the East, because here the whole journey turns inward. It's not so much about climbing some cosmic ladder, it's more like looking in a mirror. So in Hinduism, and specifically in the Advaita Vedanta school, which is all about non-dual philosophy, the central mind-bending claim is Tat Twam Asi. It means thou art that. So get this. In this view, theosis isn't something you have to achieve over time. It's a fundamental truth you just have to realize you've been all along. And that's the absolute key difference. The goal isn't to become divine, it's to wake up from the illusion that you're separate in the first place, an illusion they call Maya. So the I that you think you are, that's the dream. The universal self, that's the reality. Now, over in Sufism, the mystical path within Islam, the whole journey is framed almost like a passionate romance. It happens in 2 steps. First, there's fana, which means annihilation. The individual ego just evaporates. It dissolves in this overwhelming love of God. But then comes baka, which means subsistence. You go on living, but now you're living as a vessel for the divine. You literally die to yourself so that you can live in God. So you see the pattern here, right? Whether it's about participating in the sun's warmth, getting your very own solar system, realizing you were the ocean all along, or becoming drunk on divine love, all of these traditions are basically mapping out a journey from our limited self to a limitless existence. But here's what's truly fascinating. Even though their destinations seem so different, all of these paths lay out a surprisingly similar method for how to make the journey. And let's just say it is not an easy one. The common thread is something called asceticism, and the core logic behind it is actually pretty simple. You can't be filled with something greater if you're already completely full of yourself. The ego, that's seen as the #1 obstacle. It's like the static on the radio that's blocking the divine signal. So all these practices you hear about,
Fasting, constant prayer, sitting in silence for long periods, serving other people, deep meditation. They're not really about punishing yourself, not at all. They're actually tools. They're meant for chipping away at that ego, for emptying the vessel so it can finally be filled. And yeah, it's hard, intentional work.
Okay, so let's bring it all back home. What does any of this mean for that imposter syndrome we talked about at the beginning? I mean, how do you even start a journey this monumental?
Well, it seems the journey requires this kind of paradoxical mindset. On one hand, you need profound humility, right? The wisdom to know just how vast the distance is between who you are now and who you could become. But on the other hand, you need some serious chutzpah, the sheer audacity to believe that you can actually get there, that this journey isn't just possible, but it's what you were made for.
Because at the end of the day, Theosis suggests our purpose isn't to escape our humanity, it's to complete it. The idea is that the image of God inside us isn't some static, finished picture. It's a seed, a living seed. And the entire spiritual journey, then, is really about just one thing: watering that seed and giving it the space to grow into what it was always destined to become.